And he joins us on a miserable morning here in the city of Boston on the Harbor One hotline. Hello, Bradfo.
There's only one thing in this world that can make us all feel better, and that is Chris Scheim saying, what, Chris?
McFarland!
Does that make you feel better? Let's go.
Not really.
Nope,
Sorry.
Well, it's hard to. It's hard to make history. I guess that's what we learned is that the 04 Sox remain, when it comes to history makers in this city, a standalone. I guess.
Well, we'll try in the next 10 minutes to make history. So there you go.
Were you surprised that team wasn't there last night? That seemed like a layup.
They were
for
there.
Not the entire. They didn't do anything with them.
Yeah, they had.
They were there. I know that they had a suite up in the corner because I'm like, what lousy seats they had.
They should have had them courtside because watching it at home,
They had them on
the
Jumbotron.
Yeah.
I think it was it Kevin Millar?
That would have definitely made the difference for Jaylen Brown if those guys were there.
I heard that. I heard the big problem with the celebrity fans.
Was Dale Swaim there? Because I hate that guy.
Yeah. Well, let's turn our attention to baseball because that's all we have left here.
Yeah, start the page.
Bradfo, Red Sox team left on this trip in 5th place, and I believe they've moved up to 4th place. So,
there you go. See, see, the town is a buzz. The town is a buzz. Oh man, yeah, we've arrived back. First of all, never take red-eye flights back. They're the worst, aren't they? Like, can we all agree on that? It's the worst.
Well,
anyway,
I would say that the news story this morning about the dude who opened the door mid-flight is probably worse than the red eye that you were on. Have you seen that?
Yeah, called a void. Is that what they say?
Yeah, did you see the video?
Oh my God, terrifying.
I don't know. That's debatable. The way that you have to sleep in 30C.
Well, I blame Foyer for that because I heard on this station Foyer told me, or he told the listeners, and I was listening, that the plane door could not open when it was in the air.
Yeah, well, tell it to those that were on that plane.
It can't
almost
open
getting sucked out.
when they're at cruising altitude. They were only 800 feet above the ground, so it was able to open.
Okay.
Science wins again.
There you go.
But my last thing in terms of the trek of the Red Sox road trip before we get to the actual Red Sox, I actually have a question maybe Courtney can answer. We went out, Will Fleming, myself, a couple other people went out for dinner in Scottsdale, right? So Scottsdale, I've never seen more bachelorette parties in my life.
Yeah.
It's a big bachelorette party place, kind of like Nashville, right? So we go out to a restaurant and we show up and there's like this nice little outdoor area, like, where can we sit there? And they said, that's going to be a half-hour wait. We're like, there's nobody there. And then they stick us in the very, very back. Is this a case that they did not want us as the face of their franchise?
Yes, this is the case of the
Yeah,
Fuggies.
I hate to say that, but yeah, they saved those tables for the hot chicks that will attract guys to come in.
Yeah.
I was wearing a baseballs and boring T-shirt. I don't know if that had anything to do with it. Or
I don't think it was the T-shirt. A little bit higher by that neck region.
So anyway, life on the road. So there you go. But yes, the Red Sox are back, and I think that despite not only have they moved one spot up in the standings, I think you probably feel a little bit better about them, even though they were under 500. Just a little bit better, if for no other reasons that you have some starting pitching. So there you go.
Is there too much of a traffic jam with teams that have won, high 20s, 30 plus games where you look at it and go, it's probably going to be extremely difficult for the Red Sox to make the postseason?
I mean, they could make the postseason. The problem is you're getting that third wild card. You'll have the Rays running away with it. You have the Yankees, who are now very good. You have the Astros, who are very good. And, of course, you have the Orioles. So you better – it's tough because you do have, to your point, Wiggy, you do have a lot of these teams that are pretty decent. They're good teams, and you're going to have to beat them. And the Red Sox aren't this be-all, end-all team that you're going to go into any series, including the one coming up against the Reds, and be like, oh, no doubt about it. I mean, they have to scratch and claw for everything they have. They could make the postseason, sure. But to your point, I think it's a tough road because there are enough of these teams. There are elite teams, and then there's a bunch of teams like the Red Sox.
Bradford, you talk about feeling better, I guess, coming back from this road trip. But 4-5, you win 2 series, but you get swept in that third one. That seems like it's the case for this team all season long so far, where they'll have flashes of greatness and then they fall off the board completely. What's the biggest worry when you look back at the West Coast trip and especially that sweep?
I think that they just have to find these guys who you know what you're going to get. And so the problem, Courtney, is that you come into this road trip and you felt great about Jarren Duran. You felt great about Alex Verdugo. You felt really good about Justin Turner and even Yoshida. And yet then you have these downturns by almost all of them. I mean, Jarren Duran, the conversation with him has completely turned from what are you going to do when Adam Duvall comes back, who, by the way, is playing tonight for Worcester. So you have a guy who went through this road trip and he just had this horrific road trip, striking out a bunch, not getting any hits, and they're counting on these guys. You don't have the no doubt about it guys anymore. You don't have the 2018 JD Martinez's, Xander Bogaerts, Mookie Betts, those guys. You don't have those guys anymore. You have good players, but you don't have the certainty, and we saw that over the course of that road trip, especially when it came to being swept in Anaheim.
You will get Trevor Story back sooner than later, right? I mean, that's what
Yeah, and that's the thing is that I think that there should be some optimism because you have Duvall playing tonight. You have Trevor Story probably, I'm guessing, coming back in mid-July, and with the new rules, it scratches right where he itches. I mean, this is exactly the type of baseball which should lead Trevor Story to be really, really good. But at the end of the day, you have to figure out, we're at the same place that we were before. The only thing that we've sort of figured out as we head into June is you have a better idea that you have a pretty good starting rotation. But now you're still sitting there saying, what do we know for sure? And they have to find that out in a hurry. And that's how you get on these runs. That's how you compete with the teams that we're talking about.
Rob, we had a Heim last week on the show on Thursday, and he didn't take too kindly to the question about Kluber and Eovaldi. I guess, why do they build these rosters with such an added degree of difficulty? Like, is it really that they're that financially tight that they can't afford these guys, or is there a part of Heim that would rather win at a negotiating table than, maybe overpay for more known talent on the field?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think the way that they do things is that they set a value and they don't like to get uncomfortable in free agency. Now, with the Eovaldi thing, what happened was that they offered Eovaldi a contract. He turns it down. Then they slap a qualifying offer on him. Now his value goes down. He doesn't get the offers that he thought he would. They come back and Eovaldi's camp comes back and tries to actually get the same sort of offer. And the Red Sox, that's come and gone and because we spent the money elsewhere. And it's just a changed landscape. And so they weren't willing to spend that extra money on Nathan Eovaldi. And obviously Eovaldi's having an unbelievable year. It's on an unbelievable run, and Kluber is not. So it's I think that sometimes it has worked out for them in terms of here's the value. We're going to value this guy, and this is what we see him at, and we're going to go get him. But we've said this and time again, and where a lot of times, if you're going to build a team through free agency, and Eovaldi's a perfect example of this, you have to get uncomfortable sometimes. You have to go above and beyond. But I just don't think they viewed Eovaldi as a guy that they thought it was worth to go above and beyond on.
Bradford, you talked about the rotation and the rotation looking pretty good of late. And one of the guys that we kind of feel like, all right, is, everybody's saying is the ace of that rotation is Chris Sale. But how confident are you in Chris Sale being able to make it through a full season?
We can't, off of what we've seen for the last 3 years, we can't definitively say, absolutely, Chris Sale is going to make it through an entire year. But all we can do is go by what we've seen to this point, Wiggy. And what we've seen to this point is a guy who seems to be healthy, other than having to drink Pedialyte after the last game because he had the sick. I mean, what is Pedialyte anyway?
Helps you with your electrolytes.
Yep.
Oh, man. James was guzzling.
Hydration is key.
Yeah.
Hydration is key. Electrolytes and hydration. Tom Brady taught us a lot of things. But I think that Chris Sale is a guy, as we sit here right now, as we said, I mean, he is one of the good stories of this season where you say that is the guy that we thought that, or we used to see. And there was a lot of room for interpretation. There was a lot of room for doubt, and for good reason, because he hadn't done it in 3 years. But so when you ask that question in 2 months from now, is he going to be doing it? I didn't know he was going to fall off a bike last year. So I can't say that. I mean, I didn't know that he was going to get hit in the hand by a line drive. I can't say that. But as we sit here right now, they needed an ace, and there's no question about it that this guy is their ace.
Don't forget that he fractured a rib during the lockout.
Yeah, well, there's all this stuff, right? I mean, but
That's because there was a stiff wind, Curtis.
See, that's why I have all this protection. So I would say this is that you were starving heading into this year to find an ace, a top of the rotation guy. And after the first couple starts in April, you're like, you still don't have one. You don't know what Sale is, but to his credit, I think that the guy that we've seen, including the last time out, that's what an ace does. They were on a 4-game losing streak. He comes back. He pitches well. He helps them get the win. So as we sit here right now, yeah, it's you should feel like he's the ace.
Rafa, you have the Reds now, who are under 500. Then you have the Rays again, who you're 10 games back from. What do you need to see in that series against the Rays to see that they could possibly even be on the same level, compete with them?
To win a game.
Just one.
I mean, it's really like the Rays just bury people. The Rays go into series and a team can feel great about themselves, and then they come out of it, and the Rays, if they don't sweep you, they're going to take 2 or 3 or 3 or 4. That's how good they've been. I did a podcast with a guy named Jack Curry who just did a book on the 1998 Yankees, who he said, like, this is the greatest team ever. Well, if you want to match up records to this point with the 1998 Yankees and the Rays, they're right there. And I'm not saying they're the greatest team ever because they could collapse in the postseason where that Yankees team just rolled. But for this team that we're seeing right now, we can pick it apart and say, oh, their closers hurt and this or that. They don't have superstars. All I know is they win, and they just roll over teams. So I mean it. Like, you just have to – first of all, you cannot slip up against a Reds team, which I will give Wiggy $500 if he can name 3 guys on that team in the next 3 seconds.
Let's see. Pete Rose.
You lose. Pete Rose, yes. So you can't slip up against the Reds. You got to win that series, and then you got to do something against the Rays.
All right, Bradfo, always a pleasure.
Yeah, I hope I made you feel we made history today. I feel
yes, we did.
Correct. Yes.
Celtics did not, but we did. So
there you go.
We will talk to you again next week. That is
all
Rob
right.
Bradford.
See y'all.